Let's go.
There is no sea or ocean for hundreds of kilometers around. Thus, Mongolia is dry. Summer is hot, plus 30 degrees. Winter is cold, minus 30 degrees Celsius, on average. Moreover, with the Himalayan mountains to the south acting like a wall, the country is isolated from the warm, wet, sub-equatorial climate of the Indian Ocean. At the same time, the Siberian north brings chilling winds from the distant Arctic. On top of this, Mongolia is located on a plateau with an altitude of around 1500 meters high. These conditions allow for a severe climatic phenomenon known as zud. These are extreme summer drought or harsh winter conditions that prevent livestock from grazing, often causing mass animal deaths. During the winter of 2009 and 2010, the temperature remained at minus 50 Celsius for almost 50 days. It was reported that several million heads of livestock were lost.
Not really a pleasant note to start with.
The good note is that it's rarely cloudy in Mongolia, the land of the eternal blue sky, they call it.
But still,
Reality is somewhat harsh sometimes.
I can take it.
Alright, as this is the story of cruelty when man surpasses the nature. Since ancient times, the steppes of Central Asia have been inhabited by nomads. While most of these nomads were moving around and mixing with different settlements, the situation in the Mongolian steppes was unique because migration was limited by natural barriers such as the Altai Mountains in the west, the Gobi Desert in the south, and the freezing wastelands of Siberia in the north, all of which were unsuitable for nomads. The tribes in Mongolia only allied with other Mongolian tribes. Although surrounding nature limited their migration, it did not prevent them from raiding its neighbors, who started building even walls. The first walls appeared in 5th century BC. These walls were erected not only to bar the ravaging nomads from the north but also between the warring Chinese states. And when the Qin state emerged victorious, forming the 4th dynasty of China, they connected the existing walls and built more along its northern frontier. It was called Long Wall. Although at the beginning it was mostly made of stones or by stamping earth and gravel between board frames, it already accounted for a stunning 2,300 kilometers in length. Here is when, in response to the threat of an expanding Chinese empire, history recorded the first unification of the Mongol people. The tribal confederation known as the Xiongnu emerged. The Qin dynasty collapsed following the emperor's death. It was succeeded by one of his generals, the king of Han province, located on the Han River, a tributary of the Yangtze River, the longest river in China and the third longest river in the world. The Han dynasty was formed. It continued to build the Chinese imperial system, which originated with Qin, a centralized monarchy in which the emperor held absolute power, supported by a bureaucracy selected through civil service exams based on Confucian principles.
What kind of exams?
Exams testing knowledge of Confucian classics, ethics, and moral philosophy to select government official based on merit rather than birth.
Meritocracy?
That's right, contrary to nepotism, choosing the most competent one rather than just your close friend or relative.
That seems like true dedication to building a healthy society.
Chinese thought so too. The Han dynasty is regarded as the golden age of Chinese history and as having a permanent impact on Chinese identity. Nowadays, the majority ethnic group of modern China, which is 90%, refers to themselves as the Han Chinese or Han people.
I see. So it all originated with the Qin dynasty?
Correct, they implemented these practices on a state scale, and it was the first state that unified all of China, north and south. The famous terracotta warriors, the army of 8,000 soldiers made of clay, were erected to guard the tomb of exactly this Chinese ruler.
Interesting.
Quite it is.
All right, what about Mongolia?
Right. The Mongol tribal confederation, the Xiongnu, first defeated the Huns and now control all of the northern and western China north of the Yellow River, the second largest river in China and the sixth longest in the world. Eventually, Huns managed to repel the invaders, but with such hunter-like neighbors, as were the nomads, Huns, agricultural settlers, could never be at ease. They continued to build more walls. Over the course of the entire history, the collective fortification spanned over 21,000 kilometers. The scale of it indicates the fear these nomadic savages induced. 50 years after Christ, the Qiongnu Empire, weakened by internal conflicts, was divided into the southern and northern halves. The northern Qiongnu migrated west. Some established a state with a peculiar name in modern Kazakhstan, Yuyi-Ban, and some became known as far as Europe as Huns, and remembered as wild nomads who brought distraction and havoc. By the way, Genghis Khan regarded Mongols as descendants of the Huns.
Okay, and what happened to those Xiongnu who stayed?
Eastern nomadic tribes, Xianbei, moved in and became the dominant power. They successfully repelled an invasion of the Huns and conquered areas of northern China. The Han dynasty collapsed, and China sank into war and fragmentation. Xianbei soon fractured as well. Its southern part, just north of the Yangtze River, became the northern dynasty of China, Northern Wei. Buddhism was introduced for the first time. To the Han Chinese, the Northern Wei were still barbarians and most migrated across the Yangtze River. Another branch of Xianbei emerged into the Rouran state, under the leadership of Mugulu. Some scholars suggest the term Mongol is likely derived from his name. Mugulu is Xianbei word for bald-headed, possibly owing to Mugulu's appearance. His hairline started at the eyebrow level. Rurans expanded and have been credited as a band of steppe robbers. The Gok Turks, the ancestors of modern Turks, who historically inhabited the north of the Altai mountain region, rebelled. They would establish the first Turkic Khaganate, which would spread the Turkic people culture across Central Asia and, over time, as far as present-day Anatolia, where Turkey is now located. When overthrown, some rulers' remnants may have become Tatars, though the origin of this ethnicity is debated. However, we can say that initially it was a Mongol-Turkic assimilation, a Mongol who acquired Turkic culture and language. Later, Tatars were regarded as anyone who spoke Turkic and came from the Central Asia steppe, regardless of their exact origin. The other part of the defeated Rurans possibly migrated west and became the second wave of Mongols who raided and swept across Europe, the Pannonian Avars. The northern Wei gave way to the Sui dynasty, who united China proper, called Zhongguo, Central State, and is the current Chinese name for China, Central State, as opposed to the surrounding barbarian regions. The Turkic Khaganate was partitioned to the Eastern Turkic Khaganate and Western Turkic Khaganate. Reunited China under the Tang dynasty destroyed the power of the Eastern Turks and established a protectorate over them. Then, Tang conquered the Western Turks as well. But an uprising led to the restoration of the Turkic Khaganate, known as the Second Turkic Khaganate. Nevertheless, the Turkic Empire ended in 744 under the pressure of Uyghurs rebels, who founded their own Khaganate. Uyghurs were also Turkic people who linguistically and culturally descended from early Turkic tribes. The Uyghur Khaganate fell to an invasion of the Yenisei Kyrgyz from the north, and other ancient Turkic people. Defeated, Uyghurs migrated and eventually settled in the Tarim Basin, among a series of oases scattered across the Kalmyk Desert. Kyrgyz had their own Khaganate too, though they were not so much interested in establishing control over the territories they acquired. You don't take it, someone else will take it. Moreover, the Tang dynasty fell. Khitans emerged, nomadic tribes from the Far East. Not wasting time, Khitan's chieftains had established their power over the land and named themselves as emperors of northern China, founding the Liao dynasty. Later, during the Mongol Empire expansion, Kyrgyz, they would migrate south into the Tanshan Mountains, where they became the ancestors of today's Kyrgyz people. On the other hand, the Southern Song dynasty allied with the Jurchens, another Far East tribe, who subjugated Liao and made it a vassal state, forming its own northern China dynasty, Jin dynasty, forcing even the Song to retreat more to the south. The remaining Liao established the Western Liao, or Karakitai. The vacuum left in the Hexi corridor could not stay unoccupied. It is a narrow stretch of traversable and relatively arable plain between the inhospitable Gobi Desert to the north and the Tibetan Plateau to the south. The Hexi Corridor is not just a natural corridor of arable land. At the time, it had the Silk Road going through it, the major trade route between the west and the east.
Who took advantage of it?
Tanguts, Tibeto-Birman people, they founded their own dynasty there, Western Xia. Remember the Tatars?
The ones no one knows the origin of?
Right, the Mongol-Turkic hybrid of the time. They lived on the fertile pastures around the lakes Hulun and Buir, and now had a powerful neighbor on one side in the form of Jin, and had to withstand raids by Mongol tribes on the other. The Hamag Mongol Khanate, the Tatar Confederation, the Kiraite Khanate, the Merkit Confederation, and the Naiman Khanate were five major Mongolic tribal confederations on the Mongolian plateau in the 12th century. The neighboring Hamag Khan was lured and captured by the Tatars and handed over to the Jin and executed. The next Hamag Khan fought the Tatars in revenge and was killed as well. The next Hamag leader was Yesugei, the father of Temujin, future Genghis Khan. Yesugei was poisoned by the Tatars in 1171. Temujin was 9 years old. Here starts the most cruel period of human history. 10 to 15% of the world population perished.
Jesus Christ.
No, Genghis Khan. At the age of 14, he killed his own older half-brother over authority in their family. Mr. Han, why would you kill your own brother?
You will not understand, my friend. Next question.
Tell us about your childhood.
My mother was kidnapped by a rival tribe where I was born. We were never admitted as their own. When I was 9, my father took me to a neighboring tribe to tighten our alliance by arranging my future marriage. Thus, I met Borte. From now on, by custom, I was supposed to stay with her family till we reached the age of marriage. But soon my father died at the hands of neighboring Tatars, and my mother took me back. However, the father's clan, the Borjigin, abandoned us, leaving us without protection and resources. Then I was enslaved by another rival clan, the Taichud tribe.
How old were you?
15. In 1 year, I escaped with the help of some people, either out of simple sympathy for the cruelty I was inflicted upon, or out of loyalty to my noble birth. My father, Yesugei, was once a Khan of all the Hamag Mongols. The Tauchids belonged to them too.
What happened next?
I sought alliances to gain support. You couldn't survive without protection. We nomads are hunters. If you don't hunt, you are being hunted. Thus, I met my dear friend Jamukha, who would become my blood brother. He helped me take revenge on the Tauchids for what they did to me. The word about me spread through the land. I gained more followers. I went back to Borte and took her as my wife, as promised. She was still waiting for me.
And so you decided to hunt down all around you.
I just wanted to have protection and live in peace. But Merkits came and stole Borte.
Was it the tribe of your mother, Hulun?
Indeed, they sought revenge for what happened decades ago to their daughter. Kidnapping was not a custom, but rather a practice that inflicted eye for eye bloodshed between rival tribes.
Isn't it a vicious circle?
And one way out of it is to unite all, enforce order, and establish control. With the help of Keraites, the blood brother of my father, we subjugated the Merkits in 1189.
You were 27.
While these were hundreds, neighboring Tatars counted thousands. And in 1202, we conquered them as well.
I suppose you were particularly harsh on them.
We encouraged assimilation.
They poisoned your father.
If you can't swallow your pride, you can't lead.
Different culture?
Not so much. Language, yes. But we all were nomads. We married each other and allowed the Tatars to rise to higher ranks.
Thus, Mongolo-Tatar, Tatara-Mongol yoke. Were you at peace now?
I wish. Kirites plotted against me and fell. And so the Naimans, they opposed unification.
1206. You gained a tremendous reputation and your people elected you as their Hagan, Khan of all Huns, the supreme Khan, or in Mongolian, Genghis Khan. Now all were united.
Indeed.
But you didn't stop.
We nomads didn't have much of our own. We didn't produce a surplus, as we didn't attend the land, as you can't cultivate bare rocks or sand or frost. Only 1% of Mongolia is arable. And to sustain a large army of followers, you need resources.
And in 1207, you invaded the Tanguts Western Shia.
They had a valuable trade route.
In 1214, you made the Jin Emperor surrender.
They constantly endangered our security.
Karakitai in 1218.
They refused to submit.
Khwarezm Empire in 1220.
They executed our envoys.
You always have a reason. What happened to your brother?
Half-brother. But that did not matter. He wanted to gain authority by force.
Wasn't it the hierarchical custom?
Victory does not come to those who play by the rules. It comes to the one who makes the rules and imposes them on others. And he was not righteous.
Were you? You swept Bukhara and Samarkand to the ground, and its inhabitants were massacred.
I gave them options to surrender and live in their culture and religion. They chose to fight. They inflicted their destiny upon themselves.
You defeated pretty much on your way. How did that happen?
Several factors. First is a swift army made only of cavalry. We could deliver lightning attacks in no time. Second is mobility. Each man carried precisely what he needed, nothing more. We only had a large reserve of horses that always accompanied the warriors. As we moved, we milked the animals, slaughtered them for food, and fed ourselves from hunting and looting. Third, we had superior, more sophisticated bows that shot farther and could hold any arrows, whereas our arrows did not fit the bows of our enemies. And fourth is wit.
Wit?
Wit. We often had to invent a strategy to mislead our opponent. The common one, especially when we were outnumbered, was to pretend we were fleeing the battle. Thus, in our pursuit, heavy and slow enemy infantry scattered widely, when suddenly we would turn around and finish them swiftly.
You reached as far as Kiev and Rus, the grasslands of the northern Black Sea, present-day Ukraine.
My generals, yes.
You crushed them, too.
They killed our envoys.
They later complained. Only every 10th returned to his home.
They shouldn't have killed our envoys.
The Tatars turned back from the river Dnieper, and we know not whence they came, nor where they'd hid themselves again.
Tatars.
Okay. 1227,
What? 1227.
the year Genghis Khan died.
To be honest, I pictured him differently.
We have no portrait of him made within his lifetime. Unlike any other conqueror in history, Genghis Khan did not never allowed anybody to paint his portrait or sculpture his image.
I see.
After his death, his followers buried him anonymously in the soil of his homeland without a mausoleum, a temple or pyramid, or even a small tombstone to mark the place where he lay.
And no one knows today where this place is?
No one knows precisely. Today, there is a 40-meter tall stainless steel statue of Genghis Khan on a horseback in Mongolia, the world's tallest statue of a rider mounted on a horse. After Genghis Khan's death, his sons continued the conquest. By 1234, Ogedei conquered the Jin dynasty. Han Bati went west, invaded Eastern Europe as far as Poland, marking the final collapse of Kievan Rus, and created the Golden Horse State in 1242. Grandson Hulagu subjugated Iran and Syria by 1259, founding the Ilkhanate. The second son, Chagatai, formed the Chagatai Khanate, and the grandson, Kubilai Khan, warred in China and conquered the Song dynasty, founding the Yuan dynasty, meaning origin. And so the Mongol Empire was decentralized. In 1295, the Ilkhanate converted to Islam. In the 1330s, it was ravaged by the Black Death. The Chagatai Khaganate would progressively lose lands to the Timurids of Tamerlan, another great power that had emerged. The reduced Chagatai's realm came to be known as Mogolistan, which lasted for another century before breaking into separate Khaganates. The Golden Horde, which means Golden Army, flourished for a full century until in 1380 the Mongols suffered defeat at the hands of Moscow Prince Dmitry in the Battle of Kulikovo. Moscow's power began to rise, and Mongol influence in the region became to wane. But after Tamerlan's 1396 invasion, the Golden Horde broke into smaller khanates too. The conquest of the Sibir Khanate by the Russian state in 1582 would open the road for Russians to the Far East. The Mongolian steppe was under Kublai Khan control. He also submitted Tibet, invited the Lama, and introduced Buddhism, practiced by some 50% of the Mongolian population nowadays. Before that, it was shamanism. Still is, though. Kublai Khan's Yuan dynasty gave way to the Ming dynasty, founded by the Chinese Han people. They drove the Mongol-led Yuan back to the Mongolian steppe, where it became the Northern Yuan dynasty. At the same time, the Oirats, westernmost Mongol people, gained more power. They fought against the Eastern Mongols for dominion, thus further weakening Mongolian strength. Meanwhile, Manchus, descendants of the Jurchens, remember the Jin dynasty, united their tribes and formed the later Jin dynasty. Under pressure from the west and the east, the Northern Yuan dynasty divided into three parts: the Khalkha, Inner Mongols, and Buryats. In 1634, the later Jin subjugated Inner Mongolia and formed the last Chinese dynasty, the Qing Empire. The Qing's complete conquest of China occurred in 1683. At the same time, Russian Cossacks reached the northern border of Mongolia, subdued Buryats' resistance, and conquered the Balkan region in the 1640s-50s. Only the Khalkha Mongols continued to rule until, under the pressure of Oirats Mongols, now expanded into Jungar Khanate, they submitted to the Qin dynasty in 1691. The Treaty of Kyakhta in 1727 established the present northern border of Mongolia, then the border between the Russian Empire and the Qin dynasty. The Jungar Khanate fell to the Qin in 1758. Some of the Jungars migrated west and now constitute the Kalmyk people in southern Russia, near the Caspian Sea. Inner Mongolia, as opposed to Outer Mongolia, terms coined by the Qin to administratively separate Mongol tribes, came under direct Chinese control, while Outer Mongolia, farther away and across the vast Gobi Desert, enjoyed much more autonomy. Today, around 4 million ethnic Mongols live in Inner Mongolia, making it the larger population than independent Mongolia itself, 3.5 million. Imagine, right? Now Inner Mongolia has autonomous status within China, and the Mongolian language is co-official with Mandarin. And under Qing rule, Inner Mongolia was undergoing a process of assimilation into Han Chinese culture. Serfdom was introduced to Mongolia for the first time. The 1911 revolution in China, Xinhai Revolution, ended the monarchy. The Mongolian government declared independence. Its army went further and partially took control of Inner Mongolia. Now, Mongolia claimed all Mongolian lands under a united Mongolia. China still claimed all Mongolian territory as Chinese, and Russia sought to reduce Mongolia's autonomy to just Outer Mongolia. Thus, the 1915 Treaty of Kyakhta between the three states was concluded, which guaranteed Outer Mongolia its autonomy, but under China's suzerainty. Following the 1917 October Revolution in Russia, which overthrew the monarchy and established a communist regime, followed by the Russian Civil War, the Chinese troops occupied Urga, modern Ulaanbaatar, in 1919. A year later, the remnants of the Russian White Army, supporters of the former emperor, crossed into Mongolia. They helped the Mongols drive the Chinese out of the capital. The Red Army of the victorious Bolsheviks entered Urga in 1921. Whites were defeated and the Communist Mongolian People's Party took control of the country. Nevertheless, Russia withdrew its troops in 1924, recognizing China's suzerainty over Mongolia, which had already become the Mongolian People's Republic. Communism took off. Herds were forcibly collectivized, private trade was forbidden, the Buddhist monasteries and the nobility came under attack. In the following decades, thousands of people were executed and sent to the Gulag labor camps. During World War II, Mongolian troops fought alongside with Red Army in Manchuria in 1939 and in Inner Mongolia in 1945. And between 1941 and 1945, the Soviets had a non-aggression pact with Japan. In August 1945, the Republic of China finally recognized Mongolia's independence, and in 1949, China became a communist state itself. Mongolia remained closely aligned with the Soviet Union, though. The Mongolian language adopted the Cyrillic script and had used it to this day, with attempts underway to restore its traditional script.
What does it look like?
Looks like Arabic to me.
Oh, sorry. Here it is.
Seriously?
I swear.
But it really looks like Arabic. Just vertical.
It is indeed.
How come?
Mongols took their script from Uyghurs, whose writing has its roots in ancient Aramaic script, which is also a source for Arabic writing.
And vertical?
And vertical? And vertical because they adapted it to the style of writing at the time in their neighborhoods, like Chinese used to write vertically. And so Mongolia remained a Soviet satellite for the next decades. The Russian language was taught in school. The older Mongolian population today might speak some Russian. Otherwise, it's all Mongolian. There are some ethnic Kazakhs in the West, though. In 1990, people took to the streets in protest against the Communist Mongolian People's Party, and peacefully the first democratic elections were held, introducing a multi-party system and a market economy. Since then, Mongolia has become simply Mongolia.
Do you think that the Gobi Desert contributed to Mongolian independence?
By not allowing China to penetrate further and assimilate Outer Mongolia as well? Yes, in a way, also Russia's growing power. It was in the interest of both empires to have a buffer zone between them, but the vast expanses of barren land definitely made an impact. The Mongolian word Gobi refers to waterless regions. It is so dry that the area is popular with dinosaurs' fossil finds, which are preserved by the climate. It is 1600 by 800 kilometers in size. Gobi is home to the only truly wild camels, the wild Bactrian camel. It is a different species from the ordinary Bactrian camel, which is domesticated. And indeed, a wild Bactrian looks truly harmless, unlike a domesticated one, which is well-groomed and in good shape.
And Australia?
Those are feral camels, descendants of once domesticated camels brought to the southern continent to explore it in the 19th century. Despite its harsh climate, The Gobi is the shortest land route for North Korean defectors. If caught in Mongolia, they are sent to South Korea. The other route is across all of China, through Laos and to friendly Thailand. And China deports back to North Korea. Gobi has a Gobi bear, a subspecies of the brown bear, the smallest of them.
Wow, desert bear.
Yeah, right. Also snow leopards, but mainly in Altai mountains. This is me when I was 5. And this is a 5-year-old Mongolian kid. They learned to ride horses right after they learned how to walk. Just mind-blowing.
And what is Mongolia today?
Ulaanbaatar, the capital, means Red Hero. Red because it was named in 1924 when the communists came, and Baatar means hero, the founder of the Communist Party. It is a developing country, somewhere in the middle of the least among all countries. 70% of the population lives in cities, the rest are nomads and depend on herding. But urbanization is increasing. Ulaanbaatar has 1.6 million people already, and more are coming. And due to housing shortages, a significant portion of its residents live in Gert district, in traditional tents, yurts. It is overpopulated. Traffic congestion and lack of parking in the world's most sparsely populated country. Irony.
What is it like living there?
Summer is great, winter is super cold, often corruption scandals, financial instability due to a source-dependent economy, diesel fuel shortage due to harsh weather conditions, remote region, and full dependence on its import. People are welcoming, like foreigners.
Have you been there?
No,
Then how do you know?
that's what I read.
Did you read anything in Mongolian? Say something in Mongolian.
Morharach, which is euphemism for to take a piss, which literally means to see a horse. So I'm gonna see my horse and be back quick.
Any other words more useful, perhaps, like thank you?
That one is difficult actually. It's something like Barlta. Barlta.
Quite unusual. What else did you read?
Pollution is bad in the capital, especially in winter. Coal burning is the source of 95% of country's electricity. The problem is exacerbated by the Ulaanbaatar's location in the valley between mountains, which shield the city from the winter winds and thus obstruct air circulation. Nepotism, lack of opportunity, poor health care, poor infrastructure, low educational quality are the leading causes for emigration.
Sounds a bit depressing.
It is, but it is what it is. Nevertheless, it has its gem and its nature. Any questions you have before we finish?
Is Mongolia Central Asia or East Asia? What do you think?
I thought about it. Geographically, the furthest eastern meridian of Mongolia touches Taiwan. Imagine. I was shocked when I saw it first time, to be honest. Like, that far? But for some reason you can't relate Mongolia to East Asia, because historically and culturally it's so tied to Central Asia. in China, which is east. So it is just somewhere in between. It's neither of that, it's unique. There is Central Asia, there is East Asia, and there is Mongolia.